Over the last couple of weeks, a couple of great games have come out to help people better understand and play Dungeons & Dragons. Today, I'm going to compare them for you. Alright, let's start out by talking about the tutorials. So, when you first go into combat in Baldur's Gate, whether it's with the Brain Devourer or the Imps, you get about 5 screens telling you how basic combat movement works in the game. Now, if you're a video game player who likes to explore and figure things out, that's great. But as a new player to Dungeons & Dragons, and you don't know what everything does and what your options are, didn't really like that. So I only gave that 1 out of 3 points. The tutorial in Solasta, however, is very comprehensive. It's split into 4 parts among the 4 main characters, so it's built right into the narrative of the story, which is great. It goes through the basics of movement, exploration, combat, and even social interactions at the end. So that's the 3 pillars of Dungeons & Dragons. And it's a full 20 minutes at the minimum, compared to only about 1 minute in Baldur's Gate. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Okay, the next part we're going to look at is the game mechanics. Of course, the core mechanic of Dungeons & Dragons is the 20-sided dice. And in Baldur's Gate 3, you get to click on the dice to simulate rolling it whenever a skill check is needed. Also, it displays passive checks on the side whenever those happen. So it's very good in keeping with the basics of Dungeons & Dragons. During all combat, spells work the way they should. The only thing that I didn't like, that I thought was missing from Baldur's Gate 3, is that there's not a button to ready an action. And that's something that is included in Solasta. Okay, so in Solasta, the dice rolls happen automatically, so it doesn't slow down gameplay like it does in Baldur's Gate, because you have to click on the die and then you have to click another button to continue. You see all of the rolls, so that's great. Also, again, all of the abilities that your character can use, you have an option just like the ready action, and that works really great in combat, especially when you can't see the target coming yet. You prepare a ready action for if it comes into range or if it comes up to you. And that's a really great addition in Solasta that I don't see in Baldur's Gate yet. Maybe after the full version comes out, they'll put that back in. We'll have to wait and see. So I gave 2 points for Baldur's Gate in this category and a full 3 points for Solasta. Okay, moving on to the next element that we want to take a look at, the educational value. All right, the core reason for making this video is the educational value. What I mean by this is for people who are brand new to D&D and other role-playing games and don't know what their options are, don't know what they can do in the game, playing this type of computer game can be great for them. And even for experienced players, I've learned a lot in both Baldur's Gate and Solasta, new ways of using spells and abilities that I hadn't thought of before. So it's really great, really informative. For that reason, I give both Baldur's Gate 3 points and Solasta 3 points in this category. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the story. Okay, the story in Baldur's Gate 3 is great. There's a lot of foreshadowing. I think there's going to be a lot of events that will play out differently than what it seems so far in this first act in the pre-release version. I think things are going to change quite a bit, and that's very exciting. But there are a lot of different options. I've played different characters and had different outcomes, and that's how D&D should be. Of course, real D&D is going to be so much better because in a computer game, you're limited to the choices that they programmed in for you. Now, where Baldur's Gate starts in the Forgotten Realms that most D&D players are very familiar with, Solasta starts in a world that they've made all by themselves, with its own gods, its own legends, even the sub-races are slightly different, and that's a really cool feel to it. It does start, like 95% of D&D games, in a tavern, where you're waiting for someone to give you your mission, so you don't know the main plot of the story right away, which you think you do in Baldur's Gate 3. I say that just because of my own guess of what's going to happen in the next act of Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know for sure yet. We'll find out when that happens. But I really like the richness of the story. They've done quite a bit here that it really gives you an idea how D&D can vary from one table to another, comparing the two games. So in giving a score for these two, I actually only gave Baldur's Gate 2 stars in this one because there's one element that I subtracted for it, and that's the adult content. I didn't see it as necessary for a general populous game, and there weren't any warnings for that in advance. I don't see the purpose of it, and especially not for the purpose of this video, which is to teach people how to play D&D. I just don't see the overall educational value in that, so 2 stars. And a full 3 stars for Solasta because it really is a useful tool for helping people bring them into the game. And the final criterion that I'm comparing these two and making my judgment on is the graphics. Baldur's Gate 3 is beautiful. It is very well drawn. You have a lot more options on how you can make your individual characters look. I'm looking forward to maybe even more options in the full release. Who knows? Definitely more races and more classes. So that'll be something really cool to see how that looks when it all comes together. So without a doubt, Baldur's Gate gets 3 points in this category. Solasta, on the other hand, is not as beautiful as Baldur's Gate 3. This actually kind of bothered me when I first started playing because I was just so used to the beautiful visuals in Baldur's Gate 3. But as a very good friend of mine pointed out to me, when you're playing tabletop games, you're there for the story. The visuals are just bonuses on the top. So I understand and I appreciate that they spent a lot more time in developing the actual gameplay. And you have to keep in mind that they started from a Kickstarter-based project. They're not the big toy company behind Wizards of the Coast, which has been making money for a long time. So I only gave them 2 points in this category, but as we'll see in the end, it didn't make a big difference. Okay, so let's take a look at the final score. We have a total of 11 points for Baldur's Gate 3 and 14 points for Solasta. And I told you at the beginning that I was pretty biased, but I had a specific goal in mind. The goal of being which of the two games would be better for helping new players come in to the hobby of Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games. And for that, definitely, Solasta did a better job. Now, I will be using clips from both games in my future videos to show you features of different classes, different spells, and I hope to hear from you in the comments, things and ideas that you want me to explore in my future videos. So if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe because there's a lot more to come. And also, check out my Patreon page. There's an offering coming there very soon. And I hope you can support me to make even more videos. Until then, in the words of the famous Professor Dungeon Master, may all your rolls be 20.